All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring something that's honestly deeply uncomfortable but absolutely crucial to talk about. We are questioning basically everything we think we know about sacrifice, care, and what it truly means to be devoted to someone. Because the big question we really need to unpack is this: when does giving more stop becoming evidence of greater love? It's a pretty unsettling thought, right? It's an idea heavily inspired by Keigo Higashino's brilliant novel, The Devotion of Suspect X. In that story, a character gives literally everything for the person he loves, and it forces us to ask, what happens when love becomes dangerous, precisely because it looks so admirable, selfless, and absolute? So today, we're going to break down 3 modern, everyday scenarios where devotion morphs into a totally different kind of trap. Case 1. The need to be needed. Okay, meet Daniel. He's a senior systems engineer at a really fast-growing software company. For years, Daniel was the guy wide awake at 2:17 a.m., just waiting for a crisis to hit. He was the absolute hero who constantly saved his company. If a server crashed, he stepped in and fixed the problem before his junior colleagues even had a chance to learn from their own mistakes. He hoarded legacy code, completely refused to document his emergency procedures, and literally slept under his desk during outages. And he loved being that guy everyone pointed to saying, "Man, what would we ever do without you?" But that kind of heroism, it comes with a massive hidden cost. Look at the clash here between Daniel's self-image and reality. Daniel saw himself as the ultimate savior, but when a new VP named Maya joins the company, she immediately clocks him as the bottleneck. She realizes Daniel is actually keeping everyone else from growing because he refuses to let anyone else solve a problem. So Maya institutes a major change. She forces Daniel to document his work and step back during an outage. And when a junior engineer named Luis actually steps up and successfully fixes a massive crisis using Daniel's training, you'd think Daniel would be thrilled to finally get a break, right? Nope. He goes to the restroom and cries. Being forced to watch someone else resolve an emergency without his direct intervention didn't bring relief. It brought this crushing sense of abandonment. He just felt entirely useless. He later admitted, "Maybe being needed was the only way I knew how to feel loved." Just let the psychological weight of that realization sink in for a second. Daniel discovers he wasn't keeping the company running for the company's sake. He was doing it because being indispensable was literally the only way he felt secure. His immense helpfulness was just a mask for his own deep fear of being unneeded. Moving on to Case 2, the weight of gratitude. $22,430. That is the exact, down-to-the-penny amount a woman named Elena calculated that she owed her close friend, Marcus. Let me give you the backstory. Elena had just escaped a highly financially controlling marriage. She was broke, terrified, and starting over from zero. And Marcus, a friend who never asked for a single thing in return, just stepped in. He paid 3 months of rent, fixed the transmission on her car, covered a gap in her daughter's tuition, handled a surprise hospital bill, and even bought her a replacement fridge. But because Elena's past trauma had taught her that everything comes with a price tag, she tallied every single act of this unconditional rescue into a massive mountain of perceived debt. It creates this wild disconnect. As Elena rebuilt her life, she obsessively tracked this debt on a spreadsheet and started mailing Marcus repayment checks. And Marcus? He just tossed those checks straight into a drawer, completely uncashed. Elena felt absolutely trapped by her gratitude, while Marcus never wanted repayment in the first place. He just wanted to throw a life preserver to his friend when she was drowning. The whole thing finally boils over when Elena gets engaged to another man, Aaron. She's terrified to tell Marcus. She storms over to his house, totally convinced he secretly felt like he'd bought her, and she yells, "If you had asked for something, I could have said no." It's a stunning truth. Elena had completely invented a price for his generosity, because accepting help with 0 strings attached felt way too vulnerable. If Marcus had made demands, she could have fought him, but pure grace? That absolutely terrified her. Marcus gently forces her to see that he doesn't want to own her. Elena finally realizes that true gratitude does not require surrendering your future or owing someone your entire life. You can just be profoundly thankful without turning your existence into an invisible ledger. Which brings us to Case 3, the prison of protection. This one asks, what happens when we try to engineer a world completely without risk? Meet Adrian, a predictive systems engineer. After his wife dies very suddenly from a blood clot, a tragedy he obviously couldn't foresee, he builds an app for his teenage daughter, Mia. He calls it Herber. At first, it just tracks weather and transit delays. But driven by his trauma, Adrian keeps adding layers.
crime data, driver risks. Eventually, Harbor begins analyzing Mia's texts for behavioral shifts. When the app predicts her new boyfriend Noah is a high risk for emotional harm, Adrian quietly orchestrates their breakup entirely behind her back.
Just look at these risk assessments. Harbor started scoring literally everything in Mia's life, right down to her college choices. The crucial point here is that Adrian wasn't just predicting the weather anymore. He was systematically stripping away Mia's autonomy by preempting every single mistake she could possibly make. He thought he was loving her, but really, he was just building a highly sophisticated cage to soothe his own crippling anxiety about losing her.
Inevitably, Mia discovers the Harbor algorithm on his laptop, and the fallout is massive. She hits him with this devastating question. If you are right about everything, when do I get to become a person? Adrian tries to argue that he was right. The boyfriend was bad news, the college program was risky, but Mia nails it. If he engineers her life so she never fails, she never actually gets to live. Adrian ultimately has to make the terrifying choice to turn off the predictive system. He has to watch his daughter get on a train to a risky college program, knowing she might fail. Because a life without risk is just a smaller and smaller cage. True protection isn't about preventing all harm. It's about being there to help them stand back up when they inevitably stumble.
Love without disappearing. So, what is the connective tissue between Daniel, Elena, and Adrian? Every single one of them discovered that the darkest side of devotion is when we use it to avoid our own vulnerabilities. Daniel used fixing things to avoid feeling unloved. Elena used debt to avoid the vulnerability of pure grace. Adrian used data to avoid the absolute terror of uncertainty. They all had to learn that true love requires facing those fears, not hiding behind extreme acts of devotion.
It boils down to this. Mature love asks us to remain a whole person. And it asks us to let the person we love remain a whole person too, complete with their own agency, their own mistakes, and their own independence. We have to do this without turning either life into payment for the other. It's so much easier to just try and solve someone else's life, but it's infinitely braver to stand beside them without knowing exactly what's going to happen.
Now, to read the rest, please visit imaginarytalks.com/5-modern-stories-inspired-by-the-devotion-of the suspect X. We've only covered 3 case studies in today's explainer, but the source material actually contains 5. There are 2 more incredible moral dilemmas waiting for you at that link, involving a whistleblower's brutal choice between loyalty and truth and a caretaker's suffocating devotion. I highly encourage you to check them out. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Have you ever helped someone just so they would need you? Or protected someone so much you literally robbed them of their choices? Challenge yourself to look at your own relationships today. Is your devotion truly helping them grow and thrive? Or is it secretly just making you feel secure? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.